Welcome everyone to a very special episode. Today we have two special guests. We have Mark from Archaeosoup and Fredrik from Digging Up Ancient Aliens.
Ooh,
Yay!
hello.
Thank you so much, Fredrik. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell people what you do?
So I am Fredrik from Sweden, if you notice any accent there. And I do a show where I most of the time torture myself by watching Ancient Aliens
Oh,
and other pseudo-archaeological shows that I find on the internet. I had watched the, what's his, Corsetti, Jimmy Corsetti, his stuff, and a lot of Ancient Aliens. And then well, cover their claims from an archaeological perspective, which is my background, archaeology. And that's it. I'm not sure why I really punish myself like this, but it's
For the content, well, also really for the education. I mean, we joke, and for those who are only listening, Mark is wearing a tinfoil hat, and I'm wearing an alien dinosaur cap with an alien shirt on it. But we like to joke because it's just ridiculous at this point. Well, I always
yes,
see
yes.
those ads for the Gaia people where they think that humans are a leftover reptilian race,
oh
which I
yeah,
think,
Ben Carson.
oh,
Yeah,
so funny,
he is
so funny.
special. He is special. And yeah, that's it. I also just launched sorry for the plug, a historical guided tours app called Historian
Yay!
that can also
Okay.
be used as an audiobook at home. So if you can't go to Sweden or other places in the app, you can always listen to it in the car or at home doing the dishes and then see new places that way.
Oh,
That
yay,
sounds good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I should just explain as well also for the those listening. I was doing heavy quotation marks for we
Yes,
like
air quotes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So this is going to be our Ancient Aliens quiz, archaeology, myth busting, and conspiracy theories. And
And I'm already scared.
yeah. If you want to play along at home, get yourself a scoreboard, see how many of these you actually know. Uh, Mark might have a scoreboard, so if
I,
you
I- I'll get one now.
but take tally of how many you get right there, about 30 questions. Now, I'm going to ask these questions as though I am an angry commenter in one of your videos. And
Oh
so,
wow.
yes. So I do
You
have,
didn't tell us this. This is
you can have your own, so this way you can have your own Green Man moment, Mark, like me.
I didn't agree to this. Okay.
There's a
We
lot of
always,
death threats. I mean,
this
Okay,
is,
I
this
need to
is,
get. I'm not up. I'm not this upset. I do need to get a pen though that works. I'll be back in a second.
so Mark's going to make the scoreboard to see how well you do. Usually, we joke about this all the time because one of the series that we usually do is Are Things Pagan or Christian? So, for example, we just did a Midsummer one, and we talked about Frederick. How much do you know about Midsummer?
depends. Swedish
When,
midsummer, a bit
yes,
more.
Swedish. When do you think that holiday started? Or maybe you know.
Uh, Mostly in Christian times.
Oh, so St. John's Day, it was established in the 4th century, but Midsummer, as the way that you celebrate it in Sweden, was established in 930 AD. And a lot of people think that for whatever reason that this is a very ancient holiday. The bonfires have ancient connections, but pretty
Hmm.
much everything else that's part of this holiday was early medieval. And in some cases, depending on where you are in Europe, it's late medieval. A lot of it stemming from the changing of the calendars, switching celebrations from May Day to now. Also, other holidays that were around this time that got conflated with midsummer, etc. So a lot of people who think, oh, this holiday's pagan, or oh, this holiday's Christian, actually, it's kind of neither. It just came out of like folk. And so that's what we do is I make all these quizzes about certain holiday customs and historical things that people think have to be ancient or they have to be Christian. And then we discover actually no, they're neither. They're just folk customs that
Hmm.
arose from certain either areas or time periods. and they just became popular for whatever reason as a thing for people to do.
I mean,
So
people like to party. It's not that strange, really.
Yeah,
exactly. I
mhm.
mean, especially, people saying things like, "Oh, Christmas is pagan," and you just go, "Well, it's the most if you're thinking of it in the northern hemisphere, it's the most boring and the dark time of year, and the ground is
Uh-huh.
frozen. So people need something to do for 2 months when they can't really do anything.
Mm, mm.
So anyway, there's your little snippet of what we usually do, how we infuriate people on this show. All right, so what do we got, Mark? We have me. Oh, I'm not the Franklinator this time. So
No. I couldn't fit it in. But also, I really appreciate that Fredrik is not Frederick, but Fredrik. So,
Yeah.
like, one fewer letters. I like it. It fits nicely.
Yeah, but
All right.
many Brits get that wrong. I get interesting spellings from
Many Brits
British.
get well, no, sorry. Many English people
Yes.
get this wrong.
Mark likes to make everybody very aware that he is not English. Yes. which infuriates the English, which is kind of fun. So,
Yeah.
so we have about 30 questions. We'll see
Bendigetic.
if you can get all the way through these, and Mark will tally, but you can keep your own tally at home of how
I'll do my best. Yeah.
well you're doing. So question 1. Why don't archaeologists believe Graham Hancock when he says that Atlantis was real?
Well, because I mean, Plato used allegories. I mean, nobody
Yes.
goes out and look for the cave in the Republic, for example.
Yes.
There's nobody out running there. We need to free these people sitting staring at the cave. Where is this rescue mission? I mean, if we
Yeah.
don't
That's
see
quite
that, why
grim.
would we
Yeah.
believe Atlantis? But yeah, I spent an hour cover this in an episode, really cover the allegory. But the short answer is because it was a made up plot point from an unfinished story. He meant to finish it, but he kind of just ends mid-sentence. So if you read Kritas and Timaeus, it just abruptly ends mid-sentence and just
Mm,
nothing happens.
Yeah, it's amazing how you're Finnegan's Wake ends mid sentence, and nobody thinks that's a real story. And even Aristotle said that Plato made it up. It wasn't real.
Yeah.
So why is it and not only that, but people forgot about Atlantis for hundreds of years. So why
mm,
is there such a resurgence? Do
yeah.
either of you know?
It's a compelling story.
It's a very
I,
racist answer. Do you know it,
yeah,
Mark?
I'm gonna say proto-white supremacy.
Oh, very good, Mark. 10 on 10. So when the Americas were air quotes discovered,
Yeah.
there were quite a few people who had said things like, "Oh, there's Atlantis. There's the lost city of Atlantis."
Mm,
And again, it became this whole like, "Oh, we were once this great civilization, and now we're not. And see, there's Atlantis," and etc. So it suddenly became a very popular thing because of
mm,
the sudden discovery of, and then it was used as an excuse to part of the excuse to go over there
mm.
and take their resources. There was
Well,
also a whole thing.
also, are you going to mention the Cumbro the?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. What is it?
Well, previously when we spoke, I wasn't sure if you were going to do this, and hence I didn't want to, get a like a raw from you. Uh, but yeah, the idea that the Native Americans were the Black Welsh,
Yes,
and somehow that gave the English a right to be in North America was prominent.
exactly.
Um,
So yeah.
it's also interesting as well because the thing about um oh this whole thing is just it's just so disappointing, isn't it? Because as Frederick quite rightly says, other people can handle there being a metaphorical talking point, an effect, a sort of a philosophical machine which is used to highlight something, and yet for some reason, Atlantis persists, and
Mm-hmm.
so Yeah, it's disappointing, but it is, yeah, it is nonetheless a thing. Yeah.
All right, give both of yourselves a point.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Question 2. If ley lines are real, why won't archaeologists just acknowledge them? I
You said this would happen, didn't you? You said this would happen.
Listen, I had a 4-minute rant about the Green Man. This is now your time, okay? Mark made me have a 4-minute rant about the Green Man so he could make a QR code about it. And so anytime somebody said that the Green Man is a pagan god, he would go, listen to this.
Fuck my life. So sorry, Frederick. I don't mean to overtalk you here. There's been some research shown that's very, very interesting. Some research done in London that highlighted the relationship between pizza outlets. This was in the mid-90s. Of course, this would have changed, but the effect won't have changed because it's fucking random. In so much as in London, if you drew a line from one pizza store to another and then through another, you would get these things that appear to be significant lines of interest.
Aliens did it, Mark. They wanted us to have pizza.
No, they didn't. And even you have a dinosaur hat on, Michelle. You're not even an alien, man.
I'm one of the reptilians, don't you know?
Oh, I see. You remember the royal family. No, sorry. So to be less angry, I could draw a line between any two things that I named, and any three near things that I named, and it would be a straight line. It just happens. It just happens, and it's a thing that happens, and people love to imagine that there's. So, do you know what really annoyed the most? The thing that most annoyed me most here is that, like a few years ago now, Radiohead they appeared on Glastonbury. They were headlining Saturday night, and Tom York. This is the moment I stopped being a Radiohead fan. Tom York turned up and he goes, I don't know. I think it's really significant that apparently the stage is on a ley line. Apparently, yeah, it's really significant. And I literally was shouting at the TV, "No, Tom, no!"
What do you mean? He just read the old straight track. It makes perfect sense.
But comparing that to, like, I mean, obviously, Radiohead's other work is, like, a bit weird. But comparing that to even like a couple of years, was it the year before even? Coldplay did like the post-Brexit performance about like how despite the results, humans are cool and we're all going to be loved. There was none of this sort of like weird. He didn't talk to the crowd. He just came out with this ley line bullshit, and it angered me. I'm going to shut up now.
Frederick, where does it come from?
Yeah, that's what I find a little bit not interesting, a little bit amusing maybe. But the ley line as we know them is from, of course, Alfred Watkins, who published his book in 1922, I think. Now the name of it eludes me, but
The Old Straight Track is the book.
Old Straight Track, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also an earlier author talking about a ley line concept named Joseph Houghton Spencer, who wrote his article Ancient Trackways of England, that basically tells the exact same thing as Watkins, but 30 years earlier. I think it was in 1889 or something like that. He published that, but they seem to not have been aware of each other at any point. But there's two of these theories. But ley lines was the one that stuck in people's imaginations, that these ancient primitive people needed a hill to walk on, so they just took out straight lines in the countryside, as you do as you're hiking. I don't know if any of you hiking, but you always go up a hill and just walk in a straight line because other things aren't efficient. But yeah, you just go a straight line, and there we have the ley line concept. And then other people start to add these weird metaphysical claims about them, that there's alien connection. The worst thing I saw is that ancient aliens came to Denmark and built Viking fortresses because they're circular, the Trelleborgar, and those are connected in a straight line. If you kind of blur it a little bit, they pass through each other. If you have a margin of 100 kilometers or so, but then it also connects to Delphi in Greece.
Yeah.
Straight line, except it don't.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
So
I
why does this
tried on a
persist?
map, and you can't get these trelleborgs to connect with Delphi or Egypt for that matter. But yeah, because the aliens travel from the Greece and taught them, and then in the winter they went to Scandinavia because we all travel to Scandinavia in the winter. And teach the Scandinavians, except the culture, differ from each other by a couple 1,000 year or so. So yeah,
It seems like, well, a lot of this persisted because of the 1960s, the American metaphysical movement, the Earth Mysteries movement in particular in 1961. Another by the name of Tony Wedd was the one who started this whole thing with aliens.
Thank
And
God.
my question to him is, if the aliens needed hills to land on, like why would you bother making ley lines? Like the straight lines don't matter to aliens. They have spaceships.
Have you seen the most recent discovered animal in the Nazca Lines set? It's the most derpy looking cat you've ever seen.
Oh yes, I have seen
Like
it.
it's not remotely, doesn't make no sense from space, from the sky at all. It's like,
No.
I'm a
Yeah.
cat. And oh, sorry, go on. Anyway, I'm. You were right, Michelle.
I told you.
You were right. Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
I had my
did-
Green Man moment.
I never thought I'd be baited on this, and yet here I am, just simmering away. Yeah.
Oh, so give yourselves both a point. We're just getting started. So question number
Oh,
3.
okay.
Where is Robin Hood buried?
Fuck off. Sorry. Sorry.
Mark is out.
Record time for Mark tapping out. 20 minutes.
No,
The-
I should say. So I should say I've had a difficult day. Michelle knows this.
yes, yeah. So
All right.
where is he
Where's he
said
buried?
to be buried? I'll say it that way. Where is he said to be buried?
I have to admit, I have no idea except from what's in Disney's Robin Hood version on this one.
Okay. I mention this because this has become a very big point of contention, because apparently his grave, air quotes, is in
Yeah.
Kirklees Park Estate in West Yorkshire,
Yeah.
near the now ruined Kirklees Priory. But I mean, obviously Robin is not really buried there. It's a fake
How do we know?
grave that's it.
How do we know?
Oh, because I mean they've done studies on it. It's a fake grave that as well. So they put
Are you
up
sure?
yes, because the monument that was put up to him is written in, it's fake Old English. It's like ye old grave is here. It's the
yeah,
worst translated thing you've ever seen. And
yeah.
it was put up probably to make money for people to come see it. But now it's been encircled by private property, so you can't go there. And so it's constantly
Oh.
comes up in the news how people are like, oh, we're trying to visit Robin Hood's grave. And the person who owns the property goes, it's not real. You need to stop. Historian Maurice Ken describes
you need to
the
calm down.
inscription that
Yeah.
they made as clearly spurious,
Yeah.
observing that the language in which it was written is completely bogus Old English. It's not real.
Although, just to insert a little bit of like actual learning here, ye
Yes, it's
does
the.
come from actual thing, doesn't it? It's the, isn't it?
Yes,
So,
yeah, exactly.
so-
Yeah, it's
so
shorthand.
the printed 16th century version of the thorn
Yeah.
was a Y, was TH. So yeah. So would that be ironically ye olde then, do you think?
Oh, I think so. I think it was done
Yeah.
ironically, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So neither one of you knew where he was quote unquote buried.
No, point to you.
No,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of those fantasy
Yeah.
graves out there.
Oh,
In
we're
Sweden
getting
was
to it.
common.
Oh, Bed Gillett, man. Bed Gillett. Anyway.
So speaking of fantasy graves, why do archaeologists think that King Arthur is not buried at Glastonbury when we have his body?
Sorry, what?
Why do archaeologists say that King Arthur is not
No,
buried
no,
at
no, I heard
Glastonbury
you.
when we have his body?
How do you know it's King
Yes,
Arthur's birthday?
Yes,
exactly.
Fredrik, exactly, because it's
Oh my
not his
God.
frickin' body. We know that
God.
we know that the monks at Glastonbury made it up. They made it up after
Oh,
the
that
abbey burned
hurts.
down.
Oh, in so much pain. Okay, so Frederick gets a point. 3. Okay.
On the 24th of May, 1184, there was a devastating fire that swept through the abbey. William of Malmesbury, he even wrote it in the 1120s. He talks about how the old church containing all the relics and the reliquaries just completely were destroyed, and the monks urgently needed funds to rebuild the abbey, and so
All
they
right. So
made a
it's Arthur, yeah.
miraculous
Yeah.
discovery, air quotes, of the graves of King Arthur and Queen Guinevere only a few years after the fire, provided a very welcome source of income. And when archaeologists actually did look at the two bodies, one of them was said to have light-colored hair, clearly Guinevere, of course, and
Yeah.
and the body of the man was said to be very large and warrior-like.
Ah.
Good.
Of course.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah, of course it's them.
I mean, it sounds like the Turin Shroud also just appearing when somebody needs money. It's something that seems to go around with these relics sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, the Turin Shroud is another one. I mean, there's a lot of fakes that go around in the Middle Ages, which we will all get to.
There's literally an artist who was interviewed by a bishop who
Mhm.
says, "I made the Turin Shroud."
Yes,
Like,
that's right. Yeah.
and still the Vatican says, "Oh, it's an icon of faith for many people." That's grand. That's fine. It doesn't mean it's real. Like, but sorry, I'm Michelle, you're doing such a good job tonight. I'm very
Next question. If the aliens didn't make the pyramids, how come they match the pyramids in Mexico?
Oh,
Don't. Mark
They
is
don't.
just collapsing. He haven't hurt himself as much as I have, apparently.
going to go ahead, Frederic. Frederic, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't look at each
No.
other, and they have completely different building method,
Yes.
structure, materials. I mean,
As well, yeah,
they
they're not
are.
even used for the same thing. The pyramids
No.
in Mexico are temples, and the ones in Egypt are tombs.
Yeah, now there
Oh.
are two pyramids in Mexico that also serves as
Yeah.
tomb, but the main function
Yeah.
seems to have a religious function. Same as ancient Egypt, many of the pyramids are connected to a temple, either that it later develops into a sort of cult as one of the queen pyramids around the Giza Plateau that became a temple for Isis
Yeah.
in later history, but the original function was a tomb. And
Well,
where
Bob, there are pyramidal structures on the Yucatan Peninsula uh that have an interest in observing. Yeah, they're called observatories. So they have an interest in
mm,
observing the night sky, but they're not the same as those in Egypt, and they're not laid out in the same way, and they have not the
mm,
same interest, as you say. It's yeah, it's unfortunate, isn't it? But also as well, the fact that I mean, I love Alien versus Predator. I do. I do.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
It's a great little film, but and also there's a fantastic book I have over there that was based on called Prey, but it's not it's not a basis for a thesis, shall we say? Yeah,
I mean, it could be for disproving these kinds of things.
possibly that said though, the fiction is better than the ancient alien stuff, but yeah,
I mean, Ancient Alien is just lazy fiction. They have a good idea that could be
yeah,
very fun, and Assassin's Creed kind of worked
Oh
with that
no.
quite well. But the George Tsoukalos and Van Daniken are just lazy sci-fi writers.
Yeah.
oh yeah, mm,
Well, give yourself both a point because I think I almost killed each of you.
I
Um,
did,
equally infuriating. When
yeah.
did Merlin build Stonehenge?
Well, he used a levitation gun in about
No. That's how. That's how.
when. Yeah,
When?
but
Asking
I'm coming to
when.
the when.
Okay. Yeah.
We have to get everything right here. So,
Yeah.
when was, of course, 3000 BC, and then he
Course,
went over
naturally, yes.
to the pyramids and built those with the same
Yeah.
levitation device.
Yeah.
And he was a
Yeah.
giant at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was really into Hot Wheels. Really like collecting Hot Wheels. And people would be like, "This is amazing, these horseless carts." And he was like, do not ask me questions, mere mortal. Yeah, that's how it went. Yeah. I'm going to give Frederick a point there, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Brilliant.
it's obvious, very obviously he did it. Geoffrey of Monmouth, who said
So
that
what?
Merlin, he didn't.
Michelle.
Geoffrey of Monmouth had no idea how old
How
Stonehenge
can you,
was.
how
He
can
had
you
no,
say this?
and he completely fabricated the story of Merlin.
I have, where is he? I have a book here by Geoffrey
We
that
all
says that.
do. We all do.
Yeah.
And he was a dunce. Yeah. He completely fabricated the story of Merlin having the giant help him build Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Geoffrey was also not the first person to mention Stonehenge. Henry, the Archdeacon of Huntingdon, was in 1130. I mean, obviously, Druids and ancient peoples knew that the stones were there. That doesn't mean they built them.
Nope. No, exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, but the levitation device is a real claim from ancient aliens.
Yeah. I mean,
See, but I
let's
want
go
to
back.
know what was it made of? Is it like in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom where you have like those platforms that you hit and they go woo, like
If
that?
I remember correctly, they had a kind of wand, and therefore
Yeah.
Merlin, who is
Yeah.
a magician, is just misunderstood.
Yeah.
So,
So
but
he had
okay,
a,
but then where's his wand?
Well,
Where is
he's
it?
he took it with him.
He took it where to
naturally,
Avalon, I guess, wherever he went.
people in the new world don't get this, Michelle, but we
Oh, sorry.
understand.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I am a New Worldian with a reptile brain. I have no idea what's going on. Yes, exactly. Next
Oh,
question.
see,
Where?
sorry. Now I'm imagining. It's in the last Harry Potter film, isn't it? Where you have Voldemort hovering over Dumbledore, claiming the Elder Wand. You know, I wonder who next claimed the hovering stone magic.
Oh, Link, of course.
Oh, okay. See, and actually, yeah. Okay, yeah, cool. I accept that. That's a point to you. All right.
I mean, how else would we get Tears of the Kingdom or even Breath of the Wild then? Well, Tears of the Kingdom
Yeah.
because he has to get the ability and so have other things.
Yeah.
So next question.
Okay.
Where is the Holy Grail?
Depends on who you ask.
There is a Mark. Mark has his. Yeah, there it is.
Okay. No, not mine. This is it.
That is the one.
Yeah.
Yes. The Holy
Good.
Grail is in our hearts. Unfortunately, it never.
It's the friend we made along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, it never existed. Some scholars
No.
claim that the story was taken from an early Celtic tradition of things like magic cauldrons and cups, but actually that doesn't really seem likely, and it's probably not true. Our buddy Professor Ronald Hutton says
But
that
I've seen Indiana Jones, and the Holy Grail is definitely in there, and that's a documentary.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the real one. Yes, and Indiana Jones.
And actually, the Holy Grail was his father.
That's right.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
I think the most fanciful thing about those films is the fact that he's a well-paid archaeology professor with tenure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's deep fiction. But the whole sort of Indiana, let it go, and he turns to his father, and That said, though, I say that, but as a kid, I mean, I was disappointed. I was like, come on, it's right there. It's right there. You know, put some chewing gum on your hand or something. Just
take
grab
it.
Take it with you. Yeah. Have some ambition. Yeah, anyway, but yeah.
So do either one of you
point.
know who invented it?
The Holy Grail?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, whoever made a cup for Jesus, I would assume.
Even before that,
Oh.
even before that. So it's a
Oh, really?
Chrétien de Troyes invented the grail, but it was a serving platter because grail, like in Old French, is a dish.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't a cup originally. It was a flat dish that later it then contains the Eucharistic wafer when things became more Christianized. And it
well, I
was
don't want that
Robert
now.
de Boron who then made it the cup that has from Joseph of Arimathea, who took the blood of Christ, etc.
Right. Well,
Yeah, unfortunately, and I mean
clearly a fake.
yes,
Clearly.
is yours the real one, or is yours the real? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It has got some red felt on the bottom. You know.
Oh, exactly. Has to be 18th century, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So, speaking of Indiana Jones, which aliens are responsible for the crystal skulls?
I forgot that movie in self-defense.
I haven't forgotten the movie in self-defense. To be fair, I do count it as canon, because there's a nice symmetry with Indy as a boy living with the South African. Uh, um, stop laughing. Living with the
Fredrik's like panicked look.
no, with the
Self-defense.
South African. You know, they're veterans of a war. They have that thing happening. That happens in the. But okay, the aliens you're talking about actually are legal aliens, and they are probably North American folk with access to some sort of drill.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Obviously,
I'm
there were so many claims that said
I'm
they
a
were
legal
pre-Columbian.
alien. I'm an Englishman in New York.
They're
Oh,
they're
boom.
attributed to like Aztec and Maya civilizations, but
Welshman.
very, very obviously their research carried out on the crystal skulls in the British Museum in 1967 and 1996 and in 2004 shows that they are all fakes, at least the ones
Hmm.
that they have. Yeah, they're all,
Yeah,
as Mark
yeah,
said, they're either made with jeweler's equipment or rotary
yeah.
tools, drills. Anna Mitchell Hedges claimed that the skull that she allegedly discovered could cause visions and cure cancer.
Oh, oh, that's cool.
That didn't work out for her. That she once used
Did she
its
die of
magic.
cancer?
No, no, it's just
Oh,
that
okay.
I obviously, if you shake it over people's heads, they
Well, I'm
still
not
have
going to say
cancer.
I'm gutted. That sounds awful.
Yeah. I wish it did. I wish it were real. I wish they were. So the thing is that,
Yeah.
we make fun of these things. I really wish they were magical objects that took away disease. It would be so much easier if they were, because then we wouldn't have to, spend 20 years doing medical research. I would love to go bibbity bobbity boo and have everybody's cancer removed. But
Yep. Yep.
unfortunately, that's just not how it is.
Yeah.
She also claims that the crystal skull caused premonitions and that she predicted the John F. Kennedy assassination.
And didn't say anything.
That's what I want to know. How is that? Did she look into it and it showed her images, or did the skull go, "Oh, he's going to die"?
Yeah.
What
Yeah. And she went, you know what? Humanity's not ready for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then step back. Yeah. Yeah. And now we're left with RFK Jr. and his worm brain. Yeah.
When you talk, he's got his reptile brain, just like me.
Yeah.
So speaking of ancient Mayan culture, was the Mayan civilization established by aliens?
No.
Yes.
What? Why no? If they have those elongated
What?
skulls,
What?
they
Say,
look
why
pretty.
no?
Yeah, why
Why
no?
no? What do you mean, why yes?
But their skulls are elongated. They look like aliens, don't they?
But
Oh, yeah.
the
That's a good point.
Mayans weren't really famous for the elongated skull. That's in
Yeah.
Peru in
Yeah.
South America.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Not only that, but Mayan people are still alive today. They still
Well,
exist.
but also
yeah,
actually
but then
amongst the Mayans, they did have a sense of beauty that was to do with being cross-eyed. So in the same way that you might strap a skull to create an elongated shape in a youngster, amongst the Mayans, they would actually strap a skull to hang something dangling between the eyes to make the kids sort of focus on it, and then they become beautiful by being cross-eyed. So there's a connection there, I think. So I don't mean to step all over you there, Frederick. But it's interesting how, yeah, Peruvian, definitely there was a culture of shaping the skull, binding the skull. But interestingly enough, amongst the Mayans, cross-eyedness was, I think, a similar cranial modification, oddly enough.
Yeah, but those modifications are even here in Europe. We have elongated skulls, the
Yeah.
Toulouse skull in France, and there's
Yeah.
5 women on the island of Gotland who has elongated skull during the Viking Age. So
Yeah.
it's a common practice that don't necessitate aliens.
No, no, no. And also, to be fair, in East Anglia, there are elongated skulls and webbed feet to this day.
Mm.
So, yeah.
You sure those just weren't the Kappa people? I mean, it makes sense.
I'm being entirely serious.
Okay, next question.
Uh-huh.
If the Antikythera mechanism is proof of a highly advanced society, why won't archaeologists just say so?
Do you wanna have this one, Frederick?
If you ever get to Athens, there's a
Yeah.
brilliant museum that goes through all the animatrons from ancient Greece, and there's working models and how it works. And I mean, it's a fancy clock or whatever it was, but from an archaeological point, there ancient Greeks were actually quite crafty when it came to mechanics. They had coin-operated vending machines for holy water. They had statues that could serve drinks. They even had small theaters. So you could put in a coin and you could watch a show like a television. Not really,
Mhm.
but you had to operate a little bit, and there was
Mhm.
no sound. But yeah, we acknowledge that they were highly advanced. They just
Mm.
don't need aliens, Atlanteans, or the reptoids from the center of the earth helping them out with this type
Yeah.
of thing. So, I mean, it's inventing a thing that we never did.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and there were other, like you said, there were other mechanisms that were very similar, invented by Hellenistic scientists, all dated to around like 87 BC. So we have tons of things like this. They're
Yeah.
not the Antikythera mechanism. While it is very cool, it is not alone, and there are
No.
yeah, exactly. And I think
And
people freak out about it because there are machines like with similar complexity didn't really appear again that in that way until the astronomical clocks.
yeah, and so so some related things. So there was a festival of automata in Rome,
Hmm.
for which some stuff was setting sail from Greece, and we know sank. So we know that some automatons sank in at some point. We also know that there were temple doors that were rigged to open when you lit the brazier in front of the temple.
Yeah.
And the extent to which people knew this was a mechanism, or that they thought it was godly behavior or manifestation, is debatable. But the technology isn't. It's definitely there, and it's fascinating uh how how people want to take possibly even the wording of the existence of the Antikythera mechanism as being more or less unique in terms of survival, as being unique in terms of technology.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, if you think about it, the odds of finding something, the only, astonishingly advanced thing ever to have existed in the classical world or pre-classical world, um, depending on how far you want to push that technology back, in a shipwreck, is unbelievable. This had to be quite common to be
Yeah.
discoverable in that
And
sense.
we also have to remember that it was made out of bronze, which is a highly recyclable material and
Yeah,
very
yeah.
desirable. So if you were done with your mechanism or it broke, you
Then
could
you
just
make
sell
something
it for
else out of it.
scrap, melt it down, and
Yeah,
recycle it, meaning that less of it survives there are days. But yeah,
yeah.
if a bunch of it sinks, the likelihood of it surviving is relatively slim that it do survive, but we know that they did, and we have text describing them and all of that. And as you say, with the temples, I mean, would some think that this was some act of God, that they put their offering on the altar, burnt it, and as it burned, it opened, showing the God? I mean, some, it would have been a quite, I mean, experience. We go and get those experience on, I mean, amusement parks and everything like that. They just connected to a religious experience. And they might have known that, oh, it's a mechanism. If I light this, the water besides evaporates, and then when it cools down, it pushing the gates open. Then when it cools down, it closes. But it doesn't take away from their experience in that moment, in that sense.
Yeah, and I guess it's the nature of the transaction, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah,
because people today pay to be thrilled on a roller coaster. You could call that a transcendental experience if you wanted to. And if someone was saying this is the god of death freaking the hell out of you before and not quite killing you, then you might want to enjoy that. And that's
What do you
not,
mean? Haven't both of you been to the Ark Museum?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that where you got your
Yeah, they gave
head
it to me
from?
on the way out. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, please leave.
They see me and they go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I walk in and I go, it's okay, I know more than you.
So it's not really that hard at the Ark encounter, as I've understood.
Yeah.
I love how they build those things, but they don't even follow the very exact specifications that are given in the text. I think it's funny. Next question.
Inconvenient.
Yes, very. So yes, when they go, but wait a minute, if I follow the specifications, it would make like a small round coracle. That's not very exciting. And so they just they go, well, we can't use bitumen because that's cancerous. You go, well, I don't know that it's not historically accurate then. Sorry, guys, I'm not paying for this. Next question. Why did the Romans have so many rooms for vomiting?
Because without it, it's not really a party.
This is see, that's the logical answer. But this is something that a lot of people get wrong. They have tons of vomitoriums, but a vomitorium is not for vomiting. That's a linguistic phenomenon that we use. And the Latin word for vomitorium just means a place to spew forth from, or like an exit hall, which we still use today for amphitheaters and concerts and things like that. The vomitoria were designed to provide like a rapid place for people and large crowds to leave amphitheaters, and they have nothing to do with vomiting, unlike the way that other people might have thought.
Well, that explains why I'm not welcome back at Pompeii.
That's okay. I think the volcano took care of that for you.
Yeah, that's Fredrik's nickname, the volcano. He just turned up and went, ah!
Yeah, have you ever seen The Exorcist?
Yeah. Just start spinning around.
Yeah.
So here's one you'll both get, okay? How did the Sphinx lose its nose?
Oh no, it was Napoleon using it for target practice. Fact.
Fact. Thanks, Martin Scorsese. Wrong! No, obviously no. Despite what some popular films might have you think, it was not shot off by Napoleon, because it was already missing when Napoleon went to Egypt. We know this.
Yeah.
The Arab historian Al-Markazi wrote in the 15th century that the nose was already gone. It was gone, probably destroyed by a Sufi Muslim named Muhammad Sa'im al-Dahir. In 1378 CE, Egyptian peasants made offerings to the Sphinx in hope of controlling the flood cycle, which obviously would then result in, I guess, a successful harvest. And outraged by people doing this, Sa'im destroyed the nose or at least it says so, that he did it as an act of defiance, as a way to vandalize something that they venerated. Whether or not that's fact, we have to take them at their word, because we don't know.
But do you know where the Sphinx beard is? It's at the Egyptian Museum, and part of it is, of course, in the British Museum. But we actually
Ah,
have the beard. So it would have had a nose, and then it would have had this traditional Egyptian beard. It also had these chin straps if you look really close. But due to the poor quality of the limestone, the beard seems to have fallen off at one point. But you can see parts of it in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. And if you don't want to go to Egypt, you can go as usual to the British Museum that has everything.
Now, come on now, Frederick. I am just as happy to bitch and moan about the BM as anyone else. But I also know a lot of people who work there and who take genuine care of those artifacts.
the artifacts they
Yeah, and
negotiated.
while we are talking about the BM and perhaps, for example, laundered materials such as the Parthenon marbles, we should also mention Berlin and New York and Paris and so many other places that have this material. I'm only saying this because I think other people will be watching this. And in that sense, I'm not a rabid nationalist in that sense, but I do feel as though the BM gets a really bad rep for what was actually common practice across Europe.
Oh yeah.
And it also doesn't help itself, not least because the board of the BM is politically appointed, broadly speaking, by number 10 Downing Street. And so there are issues of using the BM as a saber rattling exercise. But I promise you, the people who work there, apart from obviously the guy who sold stuff on eBay,
Oh, I forgot about that.
oh, he did. Oh God! And what's really funny though is that when I pointed this out to people as being, do you realize how seriously damaged? If I was Greek, I'd be like, your people are selling our stuff on eBay. What are you doing? It's amazing how people linked with the BM and in the British archaeological establishment were really quick to say, "Oh, that's just one person," and I was very quick to say, "Doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Like,
matter.
it doesn't
It's
matter.
one
It doesn't
person.
matter." But it's interesting how the BM is character. It has this sort of wax mustache villain-esque uh, reputation, whereas things like, for example, the Rosetta Stone were claimed by France and then Napoleon, and then fell into British hands, and I don't know. It's difficult. I'm not saying Britain should keep that stuff, but Britain isn't the only offender, and it's not
No,
necessarily
definitely
unique
not.
in that sense.
Definitely not. As somebody who grew up going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art many, many, many times, I can tell you that you walk into that Egyptian section and you go, this was airlifted. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They have literally a whole tomb in there that you can just walk in. You just go, how did you guys get this out of Egypt? Is that okay? I mean, I don't know. It seems pretty weird. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
People pay for this exhibit.
Yeah. It's grim.
So speaking of certain organizations, I was going to use a different word. If aliens didn't establish the church, why are there astronauts and aliens carved into cathedrals? I can see Fredrik like going.
But we all know that it's the Freemasons.
Oh yes, you're right. I completely forgot to mention them. Thank you.
But they are more prevalent in medieval art with their lasers and the flying disc,
Yes.
all of that, because we always have to leave very crude clues to when we try to hide something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Yeah.
No, they
What's the fun
obviously
of hiding something if you can't like leave a crude clue? Yeah.
Just to screw people up. Thanks, Dan Brown. That the astronaut that's sculpted into the facade of the Cathedral of Salamanca because the cathedral was built in 1513, but the astronaut, the Spanish national media and other cultural like tourism websites, the astronaut was added in 1992 to replace one that had broken, like a piece that had broken off. And
Is
the
this like
alien,
the xenomorph in, is
yes,
it
the alien
Glasgow,
at
I think?
it's Paisley, the alien at Paisley
Paisley,
Abbey.
yeah,
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 it was added to the church in 1991 for the same exact
yeah.
reason that the old piece had broken off, and they just decided to put something new that was exciting there to represent modern culture. But people who see it, they go, and they think it's not a modern piece. It's obviously a modern piece. Christ.
I won't lie, you had me at aliens founding the church. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I can
I'm
see
still
it.
Assassin's
I'm,
Creed said so.
no, but that's precursor humans at least. That's like at the very least they're terrestrial beings. Like bloody hell. Anyway, so gone.
So speaking of the church, whose skull is on display in the tomb of Saint Maxim Basilica, if not the real Mary Magdalene? This is a cool like death metal gold statue
Yeah,
with the black skull
yeah.
in it.
Yeah, I mean, probably some random person who
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it's, I mean,
got
in
looted.
1974, there was a study that was done to show that the skull does belong to a woman in her 50s, possibly from the Mediterranean region, but the church will not allow it to be carbon dated. So,
No, they learn from the Turin Shroud that you don't carbon date people as things that you.
As I say, that was a church investigation. The Catholic Church itself has established the Turin Shroud is an artistic homage.
yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
in a medieval, but actually, when I went to, I was lucky enough to go to Rome and the Vatican in my just before I went to university. Actually, it was one of these weird times when you could get a last minute plane ticket for 50p. Genuinely, it was crazy. So we went over there, me and my then girlfriend, staying with someone who I just about met from Italy. We went from L'Aquila to Rome and had a fantastic time. And we went down into the Vatican, and I said, and he said, Mark, this is the these are the remains of Saint Peter. Uh, you have to believe. Oh, it's amazing. And we're in this sort of hall of apparently it's just been recently reordered. Actually, the remains of various popes. John Paul had organized this apparently, or at the very least said it must happen. And I said, oh, okay, cool. Have they DNA tested it, see if it's from the Middle East? And he goes, no, don't be stupid. No, don't be stupid. And I love him. Francesco is an amazing man. And as we were leaving the building, I sort of said to him, so do you think that this is at the heart of what you believe? Uh, the person of Christ was hoping for in religion. And he goes, no, definitely not. No. And I was like, I can respect that. But it was interesting how, yeah, there was not even the pretense of wanting to know whose bones they were. What mattered was believing that they were.
That's really
Mm.
the point of
Yeah,
relics. Yeah, they're all fakes,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's to foster the belief. That's what it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough true pieces of the cross that would be able to build a boat or whatever that author
Yeah,
said.
exactly. Yeah, yes.
I
This is a
forgot his
piece.
name, but yeah.
Hey, Viking funeral, nice. Float him out onto the Sea of Galilee. Perfect.
Okay, so why are there so many medieval torture devices?
Because they were barbarians, of course.
Of course, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No way at
Well,
all
I mean, you say
civilized.
that, but also there was no internet connection or TV.
Yeah, they
So
needed something to do, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Get some
Uh,
torturing doing. But yeah, most of them are later
yeah,
Yes.
creations by
yeah,
people who want to paint the medieval person as this barbaric witch burner who
yeah.
you know, strap people in the Iron Maiden and
Yeah.
What, the Iron Maiden's not real? But the band is so
What?
cool.
There's a place called Chillingham Castle,
Uh-huh.
about an hour north of here. And Chillingham Castle has, we went there once to see a herd of cattle rather. They're sort of relatively isolated, so they've somewhat reverted to being, you know, they're not aurochs, or not remotely, but they somewhat reverted to being something akin to like a proto-cattle. And then we went to the castle, and going around the castle, there was all this really weird stuff. So in the upper floors, what was basically the family's, like, I don't know, junk drawer laid bare over the course of 3 rooms, included things like, you know, so this is my jacket. Literally, the guy had handwritten a note. This is my jacket from, you know, when I went to Eton. Can you imagine someone thought I was going to Winchester? Yeah, that kind of thing. You're like, I don't relate to this. Um, and it was only later that I realized that this was associated with a guy called Dominic Cummings. Now, folks at home who are British may will know that name. But this was Dominic Cummings' father-in-law's castle. Um, Essentially the architect of Brexit, shall we say. Complete arse
So
biscuit.
was it
Um,
full of fakes? Is it full of fakes?
no, no. It was literally, it was the family's just junk. It was just junk.
Oh, okay.
But you had all these people going, "Oh, this is so cool. This is so." I was like, "This is literally junk. This is why." But then we went downstairs. This is why I'm thinking of this. We went downstairs and they had the torture chamber, labeled torture chamber. You know, oh, welcome to the torture. And they had things like barrels with spikes inside, and they had all this other stuff. And it's precisely as you say, Frederick. It's this thing of uh none of it was
No, it's
period,
not
none of it was
real.
real, you know,
No, Iron Maiden's chastity belts, they're all fakes.
no, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. Even the pair,
Mm,
the pair that people said that oh they inserted this into the fundament and like when
yeah.
people the springs are so weak, it actually doesn't open when you put it. And
Oh, did you try it? Have
they
you
did
tried it?
apparently try this. I do not know on what mechanism they've tried it, but they have tried it and it doesn't actually open at all.
Yeah, yeah,
No, the only
yeah,
thing that we know was real was the wreck, obviously.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's about it. And now we use it as a medical facility. Now people who have like spine damage, they actually put them on the rack and they obviously they don't sit there and turn the crank, but you know
No,
they'll put it up a little bit
no,
and then let the spine relax and then they keep doing
yeah.
it that way.
But also, though, typically though, the operator is called Igor for the most part. Someone comes in and goes, "Yes, master," and will turn the rack. And this one goes, "Oh, my back! Oh, that feels
Feels so
amazing. Do it
good, yeah.
again."
I've just taken
Yeah.
out 1 year of your life. How do you
Yeah,
feel?
exactly.
Oh, so speaking of fakes, or not,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
is the sword and the stone at Tuscany's Monte Sapi Chapel the real Excalibur?
Of course,
I wasn't even going
because
to
we all
answer
know
that.
King Arthur was in Italy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, he was in
That's,
Italy. Yeah.
you know, what he's most famous for, you know, the
Yes, King Arthur's pizza. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's no, obviously no, it's not Arthur's sword. But there's an interesting story about it. So first of all, the sword and the stone and Excalibur are not the same sword. Even in the legends, people think that the sword and the stone becomes Excalibur, but no, not at all. In the legends, Sword and the Stone and Excalibur, they show up at different times, and the Sword and the
Hmm.
Stone was made up by Robert de Boron. The sword at the Abbey, though, is claimed to belong to Saint Galgano. And while the sword was considered to be a fake for years, recent studies have shown that the dating results, as well as the metal and the style of the sword, are all consistent with late 1100s. So even though the sword didn't obviously belong to Arthur, it is a real sword from that time. Now, did it belong to the saint? No, probably not. It's impossible, obviously, to verify the sword's legendary history, but it does match up with the saint's timeline. Did he actually have it? But it is a real sword and it is a real stone. It's just not. It's not Arthur's. Did it inspire the Sword in the Stone? Who knows? I mean, maybe. I don't think Roberto Barral went to Italy. But no, anyway.
I did hear when I worked at the Jorvik Viking Center, I did hear someone one year during the Viking Festival turn up and say, "Oh, did you know? Gather round, children. Did you know that the Sword in the Stone is based on the practice of forging metal and then molding it into the shape of a blade using the hollow of a stone?" Lots of people were quite drunk that night.
That is a common theory that people believe.
Yeah.
The biggest
But
problem,
no one took it seriously.
it is
No.
true that Bronze Age swords in certain places were made that
Yeah.
way, but
Yeah.
there's
And
no
coinage as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Iron Age coinage. Yeah. But yeah. No.
Next, we only have a few questions left. So,
Okay.
why won't I think actually Fredrik did a video on this recently. Why won't archaeologists just admit that the rock Moses hit to bring forth the water is the rock at Redefim in Horeb in Saudi Arabia?
I've not covered this,
Oh, you did.
but I did talk about stone in Saudi Arabia, but not connected to Moses, as far as I could understand it. But I
You know
don't
the reason,
remember
don't you?
how they
You know the
got it
reason.
to be aliens, though.
No.
Because they-
It's because the plumbing doesn't go to that stone. That's the thing. So the pipe that clearly was sucking out the Red Sea goes to a different stone. It's one up the road, but it's in someone's garden. And so when people turn up and they want to they go, "Can we see the stone?" They go, "No, you cannot see the stone." Or you can, but for 50,000 euro. I don't know why they're charging euro. And so
No,
folks go up the road to the freestone.
the grooves in the rock are not, because people said, "Oh, look, here's where he hit the rock, and here's where he's put." No, the grooves in the rock are not
I
water.
can't take you seriously. I can't take you seriously on that. I'm sorry.
It obviously the striations are caused by like glacial flow. The rock is a glacial erratic deposit that was never physically struck. It was
Oh,
actually
erratic deposit. That's a nice word, isn't it?
yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
No, it was
yeah.
because people are like, "Oh, look, it's up at the top of the mountain, and there's all this stuff." No, it's a glacial deposit. Keeping on the theme, if archaeologists have been working on the site in Kiryat Yearim, why won't they show us the Ark of the Covenant? This is the famed place where like they last saw the Ark, whoever those people were. And so they've been doing a lot of work at Kiryat Yearim for quite a while.
Well, the thing is, last time it was actually seen, people's faces melted. So we need to be very careful with it. And
if Fredrik, you want to take a go at this one? Do you know?
Yeah, because the Ark of the Covenant is in Aksum, of course.
Ah, very good. Well, is in Aksum. Yes, but very good.
It could also be in Ethiopia, couldn't it?
That is where
Aksum
Aksum
is
is.
in
sorry.
Ethiopia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's where it is. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Sorry.
biblically speaking, I mean, the ark was long gone by the time of the first temple. In the biblical narrative, obviously it's the most important object for 500 years, and then it just completely vanishes in 586 BC when Nebuchadnezzar, when he sacks the first temple, he doesn't mention it at all. He's like, whatever, I just destroyed all this stuff. And even in the Babylonian records, when he talks about things that he took from the temple, the ark is not mentioned. And you would think that if it was the most important thing ever made out of acacia wood and gold, and it was so important to these people, that he would have taken it, or that he would have burnt it, or he went, haha, I took the. There is no word there. It was in Shiloh for a very long time
or something.
Yeah. I mean, and we know that Shiloh is an ancient cultic site. There's plenty of archaeological evidence there, but there's no, like, the ark is then taken to a place called Beit Shemesh and then to Kiryat Yearim. But again, there's a huge archaeological site there. absolutely no evidence of the Ark there or ever having been there. Scholars believe it
That's
might.
because, yeah, because it's the location is mentioned in the copper plate
Mhm.
in the Dead Sea Scroll.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, so I mean, it could, and not only that, but I mean, the Ark could have disappeared at any time during that time. There were Egyptian invasions, Syrian invasions, even interreligious forms with King Hezekiah and King Josiah, and both of them were like, we don't want this thing here anymore. So, did it represent Yahweh? Did it represent
and
Adonai? We have no clue.
so are they? Do you think that the idea is they don't want this here anymore because people want to come and get it?
I think it actually really had to do with the religious reform because
Right.
when they start talking about when the second temple is being built, and I think it's Jeremiah or Jeremiah who starts saying, "Oh, should we rebuild the Ark of the Covenant?" Suggesting that either it was burnt down, destroyed, or it's just gone.
Right.
And he says no. They say, no,
No.
I don't think that's a good idea. And it also, so whether it represented religious reform, whether it represented
Mm,
a God that they no longer kept, did it represent El? Did it represent Yahweh? We have no idea. And
no.
as Fredrik said, there was the late story that it was secreted away first to Yemen and that it was rebuilt. And then another part of this legend says that it was the Queen of Sheba who, because it's postulated that possibly Saba was Sheba, and that the Queen of Sheba, when she came, she and Solomon had a secret son together, and so the secret son came away with the real ark
And left the
and
fake
put,
one, as you
put
do.
it at Aksum, and then that the fake one was left.
Which is in Ethiopia.
Yes, Ethiopia. The problem with that story is that that story was made up in the 14th century.
Oh, oh,
Sorry. I know we
oh,
had you going.
like a knife to the heart. Okay, fair enough.
So here's one for you, Mark. Is the stone
Yeah.
of scone real or fake?
First of all, we need to clarify something. Scone is not how you say scone.
Scone. Sorry, scone.
No, it is scone. Mary Berry has been very clear on this.
Mary Berry is a southerner and has no opinion in this, okay?
No, but you see, that's the thing. It is people from the south of England who say scone, oddly enough. So scone is actually a northern thing.
Scone is a northern thing, but if you scone
But it's the
is how
stone of
you would say
scone.
it.
Yeah, okay. Fair
Is it
enough.
real or fake, Mark? You liar.
Yeah, indeed. Answer the damn question. The question.
Quit stalling.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
exactly.
Trying to check your notes.
No. I'm just wondering, do you put jam or cream on it first? No.
Excuse me, don't bring that here, okay? We don't need that conversation. The answer, first of all, is jam, okay? Jam first. Don't talk to me like that. You don't talk about that in this friendship.
We're gonna have
Actually,
to
you
have
know what I
words.
do? I cut them in half and then I put jam on one side and cream on the other, just to
Yeah,
avert all
that's
problems.
yeah, that's the answer. That's the way to do it, isn't it?
Yes.
And if you need
But
to,
is the
then
stone of scone real
yeah.
or fake, Mark?
I'm going to tell you a little story. When I was at the Orvik Viking Center, when I worked there, did you work at the Orvik Viking Center? I did. Did you know that? Yeah, when I worked there, you'd always have these kids coming up and they'd say things like, is that sword real? But they wouldn't just say, is that sword real? What they do is they grab the sword like that. Is that real? And I'd be like, if it was real, you'd have lost your fingers by now. So I think, but then also then I'd mess with them and say it's real in the sense that you can touch it. So I think that the stone of scone,
Scone. Yeah.
scone, the stone of scone, is in fact real in the sense that you can touch it.
Final answer.
Is that
Fredrik, do you have anything? Do you have anything to say about that?
I mean, I can do a very kind of semi-racist Scottish impression, but I think we should avoid that. But I think Mark put it very nicely that there's a stone named Scone, and
I need to sample that and put it into a song. There's a
Absolutely.
stone named
Names.
Scone.
In
There's
12
actually a comedy podcast that's riffing 3 minutes on just because the stone is gone in a fake Scottish accent. I can try to send it to you because I think you would enjoy it. But they, already did it.
well, whether it is real or we actually don't know. In 1296, it's claimed that King Edward I of England captured it during his invasion of Scotland, but we don't know that. They claim that the stone was used for centuries for in the coronation of monarchs for 15 years. But we don't know that. And there's also a legend that the real Stone of Destiny, or the Leofal in Ireland, is the original stone that was moved there, and then that it was moved back. In the Labor Gabal na Hairan, there's also the stone that claims to be brought by the Tuatha, or the Tuatha Danann, as one of the 4 great treasures. Others claim that it was brought from Scotland to Ireland, or that during the Kingdom of Dalriada, it was brought back and forth as well. Historian William Forbes says that it's kind of remarkable that while the Scottish legend brings the stone at Scone from Ireland, the Irish legend brings the stone the other way around. We have no idea. Like I said, so in 1296, during the Scottish War of Independence, King Edward I took the stone, claimed to take the stone, as some of the spoils of war, and removed it to Westminster Abbey. But
so are you saying
that
the stone of Scone was gone?
it was gone? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
The stone is gone. It's gone.
Yeah. Rhyme it all, kids. Rhyme it all. I love it. But there's also there was some study done on the Westminster stone, and saying that the monks at Scone Palace hid the real stone in the River Tay, or buried it at Dunsinane Hill. Again, we do not know. Some proponents of this theory claim that historic descriptions of the stone don't match the present one, so we have no idea. Sorry, kids. Oh, here's what
the jam. It was the jam.
It's mad about that, and I don't blame them. Here's one for you, Fredrik, which I know grinds your gears so hard. Why won't archaeologists just admit that the Vikings had tattoos?
Oh! 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 God! Oh! Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, while Mark is recovering, I mean, it is a topic that's kind of well understood, and the question isn't really did the Vikings have tattoos? Most culture have had tattoos, and we have description from at least one Ibn al-Fadlan, who encountered the Volga Vikings, or
The Rus,
Vikings in Volga. Question is, because the Viking world is rather big, we tend to think of it just as Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, maybe Greenland, but that's only a part of the Viking world. We also have Vikings in Poland, Estonia, in Ukraine, and it's a kind of large area. And while they share some aspect, they might not share all aspect. And the only occurrence of tattoos, or that's mentioned at least, is with the Rus that might be Scandinavians, but they might be not at the same time. And there's some debate going on that. And then, I mean, I think there are part of the Viking culture. The question is, are they Swedes or are they Ukrainian, or those settled in Poland? There's several aspects you can take. But for example, the Christians talking about Vikings in around Denmark don't really mention tattoos. They mention these calls behind their eyes, and we also have a description of the Väringa guard those fighting in Constantinople or part of the royal guard in Constantinople, they are not described with tattoos. Other
No.
barbaric tribes in these accounts are described having tattoos or body paints, but those that are Vikings are not associated with this practice. So, I mean, it could be local, it could be, I mean, it's a bigger discussion. What they didn't have is chin lines.
Yeah.
For sure, they did not use chin lines. That's indigenous practice from the Inuit tribes, for example, or people. There's also some practicing similar markings in North Africa, but it should not be incorporated in your Viking cosplay costume. Please,
No.
just leave it alone. Stop.
Yeah.
So a long rambling answer, but yeah, Vikings could have tattoos, but we're not really sure if and how they looked like.
Our friend, professor and archaeologist Howard Williams TM, he did a video recently where he presented a brand new study. And this is the study that talked about how they had the cranial changes and how they obviously, you know, they did some teeth markings as well. Yeah. But there was no evidence of tattoos at all.
What's interesting with that is that all of these are connected to Gotland, the island in the center of the Baltic, almost a lake, because in Swedish we call it a lake, but the Baltic Sea.
So insulting.
It's a matter of ambition.
Yeah, so we as of that specific study, we as of right now do not have evidence of Vikings, bodily evidence of Vikings ever having tattoos. Yeah.
No, and we don't really have pigments or tools that could be attributed to tattooing practice or in the sagas. And I mean, since most of what's written about the Vikings are in a Christian context, I mean, the Christian would definitely have harped to the use of tattoos, most likely.
Yeah, commented on it, yeah.
I always tell this to Mark. It's one of my favorite lectures that was ever given by Professor Ronald Hutton. I was there digitally, and somebody had asked a question. It was all about the Vikings in Britain specifically. And he had said something to the effect, somebody had asked a question, and he said, you know, we have to remember that everything that's written about the Vikings here that we know of is from a Christian viewpoint that was written a couple hundred years later. We have no idea whether they actually believed in Valhalla or in Ragnarok, and actually those are probably Christian ideas that were added in later. And the whole audience went silent, and you see people like staring and looking around, and he just goes, sorry about this, folks, anyway, and he just keeps going on, like, but you could see people's 300 souls left their bodies through their eyes, and they were so distraught.
And they all went to some place,
not Valhalla, that's for sure. But they're like, what do you mean the Vikings maybe not believed in Valhalla? What? And it was
I think one of the things that comes out of things like the filing of teeth, you know, there was a burial that was uncovered, probably an execution point on the edge of what is today, I think, Oxfordshire, on a crossroads, where a war band had been caught and seemingly executed on the edge of a Saxon territory. And I think one of the crucial things to remember is that these were human beings, you know, and I think a lot of people, a lot of people who sort of fantasize, essentially in a literally an antagonistic sense to modern life, and in that sense, I suppose, to a modern post-Christian, aka a modern Christian outlook of Europe in particular. They like to imagine these sort of so I don't know about you, Fredrik, but for example, I had friends, colleagues actually, who when I for example was working at Jorvik, who would say things like, you know, yes, the Christian God demands that you kneel, whereas Thor demands that you hold a hammer proudly. This kind of, so it sounds grand, and you can understand why it's attractive, but it's the fact that so much of this stuff is not evidenced, and things like what's happening at key temples, for example, in Sweden, or religious practices on Iceland, or even round to Dublin, for example. It's obscure, and I think one of the reasons why it continues, though, to be played with is that this stuff is on the fringes of history, because we're talking about stuff that's scarcely written down, and if it is written down, it's written down and then goes through other communities, and so therefore it people can, for want of a better word, abuse it actually for their own modern purposes, and often that purpose is a sort of a countercultural purpose, isn't it?
And I think that's you mentioned something very something that's often left out, that the idea of the modern Viking, or what the public perceive as what a Viking is a modern invention, especially in late 1800s Sweden aristocrat, where they start to have a rebirth of this going back to nature and this kind of noble savage, but they replacing that with this Viking aesthetic. So we have a lot of ideas coming from Swedish nationalism that kind of still survives in the public perception about how the Viking should be, standing firm, hammer in hand. And I mean, there were several societies that were basically inventing the modern Viking, but they were just cosplaying Vikings. But we take these as facts because that's how they did in the late 1800s.
But also, it has an impact, though, doesn't it, on modern demographics as well?
Yeah.
So it ends up impacting beauty standards for the nations that come out of that.
Yeah.
And so people then think, oh, Vikings were blonde, that kind of thing, It's so interesting how the stories
Fredrik's
we
blonde.
tell.
Can't you? Of course, that's true.
And I have a full head of hair underneath this this very sweaty tinfoil. But also it's that thing of the stories we tell ourselves, and I guess this is the irony at the heart of an awful lot of what Michelle's interested in.
Yeah.
Is the stories we tell ourselves, they're not only often fantastical, but they do nonetheless become real, because people forge something out of that sense of a historical reality. It's just whether or not it relates to, actual provable history or not. That's where people come in and, wear a dinosaur hat and go, "Roar!"
So, we'll move things a little bit later, since we were talking about prehistory. So, did aliens have a battle in the sky over Nuremberg in 1561?
Yeah, there's paintings of it, of course.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, absolutely. Got the ships in there, and there's all the cannons firing in the sky and everything. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a point to Fredrik. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, we obviously have no idea, but there were actually several different. This is probably just a celestial phenomena that happened.
There's a painting.
There's a woodblock of this.
It's a
Yes.
woodblock painting.
Yeah. So what else do you need?
That's right. Yeah, there's physical evidence.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Point to Fredrik. Yeah,
but it's mostly circles and bars, and there's a part that's on fire, but it's not really clear if it's connected.
No. You've got a point on the line here, man. Calm down.
The basal pamphlet of 1566 describes also describes unusual sunrises and sunsets. Celestial phenomena were said to have fought together in the form of numerous red and black balls in the sky before the rising sun. I mean, the account of it, if you actually read, because somebody reported on it, the account is very interesting. But very obviously, no, it's not aliens. It's just some kind of it's either some kind of eclipse or partial eclipse or something going on, where people are just like, oh my God, the sky's on fire. And yet 2 seconds later, everything was fine. So
you say that, but I'm not sure I can be a friend.
It's what the aliens want you to believe.
Exactly. So
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's something we talked about very briefly beforehand. Why couldn't ancient people see the color blue?
Because
Yeah, because we kind of evolved into seeing the blue. Before that, we couldn't see the sky.
Yeah,
And, you know, that's why the Native Americans couldn't see the ships coming over the sea because they never seen a boat.
that's right.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's it.
I love
Yeah.
how this is getting more and more sarcastic as we're going on. Yeah, no, of course they could
But
see blue, but
No,
this,
no. So, as far as I'm aware, okay, right. Before a certain point, blue was, kind of like the way that you refer to, like they used to have slang for people who, so like in Britain, for example, in British English, they have the slang for someone who is a bit quirky. And you
chap.
can sort of insert anything, into that. So it can be like, so and so say, oh, they really like their peas, they do. All right, all right. And it's so blue previously um occupied that sort of social space, I think. And people would be like, oh, the sky today, it's a bit like
Soup.
soupy. Yeah, it's a bit soupy. Uh, no,
No,
I think
this is a
it.
complete myth. It's made
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
No, it stemmed from
yeah,
the fact that ancient Greeks described, well, at least certain Greeks described the sea as having a wine dark color,
wine dark.
and so
Yeah,
people
yeah,
thought, oh, I guess they can't see blue. They have two other words for blue.
yeah,
We
yeah.
got the word cyan from them.
And it's, I suppose another. Okay, this is me being serious now. Is that I guess the point is that it's qualitative, isn't it? So when they describe the wine dark sea, they're describing a rich, umptuous, mysterious, churning
Yeah,
liquid.
presumably so. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And then there's
yeah,
also like we talked about before, there's also this myth that the Vikings didn't have a word for blue. They absolutely had a word for blue. Blar is the word for blue. And
yeah.
it's just due to old poor translations that people thought that they didn't have a word for blue, it's
Do you know
kind
what
of
the
silly.
old English word for orange was?
Nothing.
It was two words.
Oh, it was it yellow red? Because Chaucer uses something like that where
Yeah,
he
yeah.
says yellow red. Yeah.
Uh, red gill.
Because we get the word orange from the fruit, and so
Yeah,
therefore we say things are orange. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
see, I know what I'm talking about. I'm the one who makes these questions. This is why I win every time. No, you did really well in the last one. So here's one for you, Mark.
Uh,
Who is buried in Gellert's grave?
um,
Fred, do you know this story?
No idea.
Okay, okay.
okay. So there's this town in North Wales.
So there is.
Um, yeah, called Prestatyn. Now that's not the one we're talking about. That's where I'm from. But the one we're talking about is called it's called Beth Gelert, and it's Gelert's grave is what
Mhm.
it's known as. And you have this wonderful story of a local aristocrat who has a child, and they also have a very beloved dog called Gelert. And Gelert is set to look after the child, the newborn, as the Lord and his lady go off on a walk one day, and they come home to pandemonium. Apparently, Gelert has lost his mind and chewed at the boy and eaten him up. And this is actually reminiscent, actually, the more I think about it, Michelle, of things from the Mabinogion, isn't it? And Rhiannon. But so anyway, so
Also
you have
not
the
real.
yeah, well, uh, but you have this thing of so see, Gellert has apparently gone nuts and eaten the baby or something, attacked the baby, and so in comes my lord, what's his chops with his sword and goes "Ugh," and stabs the dog. But then it's revealed that actually the blood was not from the baby on the sheets. It was actually from a snake that had come into the room. The dog had bit the snake and blood was everywhere. The baby was fine. And so they buried the dog very carefully under a tree in Bethgelet. And it's now a very lovely uh, tourist spot that existed, oddly enough, from a very traceable point in time. In time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Except it's a
Yeah.
very lovely spot that's also a hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the
It's
story
lovely.
never happened. He took the story from pre-existing stories, and just to encourage tourism to parts of northern Wales, he completely made it up. He even made the grave look very interesting.
Yeah.
But no, it's completely not real. at
No,
all.
no.
I'm sorry, Mark.
I have been there though. I went there as a child and I loved the story. It was lovely. But I'm kind of reassured that it's not real, you know.
Yeah, I'm
Because
sorry.
you sort of think, you know,
I'm
sort of think, come
sorry.
on, come on.
Could have been, but no, it's way too late. Here's one to infuriate both of you. Medieval people knew the world was flat. Why doesn't everyone else? I can see both of
Illuminati.
your eyes just doing backflips in your head.
I
What do you
would
say?
say that people long before the medieval period knew the world wasn't flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Even in
Greeks,
people in the middle,
again.
yeah,
Yeah.
people in the Middle Ages did not think the world was flat.
no,
They
no,
never
didn't.
did. It was all nonsense made up in the 1600s. Ancient Greeks very well knew that the world was round. Hieronymus Bosch even painted the world as a circle in
Yeah.
the court of one of his paintings. No,
So where
But how did they
do we
know it? Due to the aliens.
that's that's right. The aliens told them it was round.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
why we
yeah.
know.
It was a nightmare getting here. We came in from the wrong side and we were on the Pacific.
It's an
And then
alien.
we
The
ended,
aliens are
yeah,
Yorkshiremen.
yeah, exactly.
No, you were going to ask, Mark, the accusations date from the 17th century as part of a campaign by Protestants against Catholic teachings.
Well, and I suppose in that sense, I guess you're right. You have answered that, but also, why is it therefore such a modern, supposedly biblical thing to believe in the flat Earth and the firmament and this kind of thing? Is it coming out of a sort of an impression of a Protestant tradition? Do you think, and then it's sort of become a sort of Baptist and you know
They would
broader
have done
idea?
anything to just discredit Catholic beliefs, honestly, because they believed a lot of things that the Catholics
Yeah.
believe were either from witchcraft or like
Mm.
it
Yeah,
did. Honestly, it didn't
but like
matter after a while.
yeah, but like your guy, you know, your dingaling on TikTok
And there are
today,
so many of them.
your dingaling on TikTok today, who sort of talks about their experience, the experiential nature of reality and the way in which they know the world is flat because they experience it. And
The AI told me it's flat because it made the world flat.
exactly. But this thing, that resurgence seemingly must come from a broader notion that somehow flatness is biblical, I guess, and that must be rooted in
Never.
Protestantism.
It never
No,
says so in the
no,
Bible. No, sorry.
no.
As the Old
Interesting.
Testament expert among us, the answer is no. It's not. At least it's not there. So
And
But we do
sometimes
know that the moon
people
is a light.
what's that, Fredrik? Sometimes people.
sometimes people just believe in weird stuff because they want to be part of it, like
I
Finland
reject
doesn't
that.
exist.
I reject that. Nothing we've said today highlights that people believed in weird stuff ever. I reject.
Wait, okay, so wait for the last three doozies then. So we ready for the last three
Yeah,
doozies?
yeah, yeah.
If the Romans didn't visit America, why are there Roman coins there?
I mean, someone brought it later
Yes,
and just
Yeah, yeah.
claimed to
because
have found it.
they're all hoaxes. The
I
reports
was going to
that
be really shady, Michelle, and say, "Why are you there?"
why are we all here? Why are we
Exactly. Yes,
this is
yeah.
where the aliens made the reptilian brain, and that's why I sprouted out of the ground like the medieval sheep plant
Ah,
and popped off
ah.
the and that itself is not a hoax. That's just a misunderstanding of
Of your origin.
how ferns grow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my origin story, is that I'm actually a rhizome. I'm, I'm actually three potatoes in a t-shirt.
The feet reveal. Feet reveal.
Only on
Show us the
OnlyFans.
feet.
The answer is they're all hoaxes. A lot of people use this to say that, all the Romans discovered America. No, reports of the discovery of Roman coins only go back to 16th century. The earliest account is from 1533, somebody who claimed to have found a coin of Augustus in Panama and then could not reproduce the coin, amazingly.
Mm.
I
And
found
then
it, but then I lost it.
yeah, ooh, wee. No further discoveries of Roman coins were mentioned for 250 years. And then suddenly in the 1800s, there were tons of them. Yeah, no, not at all.
No.
Second to last question.
Okay.
Is Boudica buried under King's Cross?
I would say no.
No. No. Only one account says that she was ever buried there, but other accounts don't even mention her burial or even her death at all. Some claim that Peckham Rye Common or Hampstead Heath, and some say Birmingham. I don't know how she got there. Birmingham, she's buried, but we have no clue where she's
Yeah,
buried.
that's a bit regionalist, isn't it? She can get to Birmingham. That's not the night. That's not a
That's
night.
not where the
But
Iceni tribe were.
I
That's
know,
why
I
you kind
know.
of get the names. She
Yeah.
like to burn stuff and
Yeah,
Birmingham.
Birmingham. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, burning. Yeah, exactly. I dig it. Okay. Can I ask a bonus question there?
Go on.
Okay. Who or whom or
No, who?
what
Who? Hmm.
is buried under the mound of the Great Tower of London?
Is this like a Princess in the Tower kind of thing? Is that what you're getting at? Okay.
No. This is along the lines of Boudica. It's kind of like similar sort of
Oh,
time frames.
do
Anyone
people
know?
say that her husband is buried there?
No, not her husband. No. Did anyone? No, what do you think, Frederick? Any ideas? Or it might be a little bit niche. But if you're a fan of Game
Yeah.
of Thrones, you might have a clue.
It was a long time I saw Game of
Yeah.
Thrones.
Is it Mary Queen of Scots? Do they say she's buried
No.
there? Oh no, I don't know.
Supposedly, and this is why I changed from who to whom to what. Bran the Blessed's head, the giant's head.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
okay, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
true.
supposedly underneath the mound at the
Well,
Great Tower of
wasn't
London.
Cromwell's head? Isn't Cromwell's head also buried or said to have been buried under there? I'm still waiting for that Christmas ornament, Mark. I asked Mark like 2 years ago. I said we need to make a Christmas ornament of Cromwell's head and just put it on the tree.
You're right. You're right. I need to make that, and I actually also have in the making a bell for Krampus as well. So I'm gonna have to do
Mm.
both. Yeah, that'd be good. No, but it's I mean, obviously Cromwell's head is just over there, just in the corner.
Yeah, his death
Yeah,
mask is somewhere in everybody's house.
yeah, just over there. But it's yeah, Bran the Blessed, and supposedly he it's kind of like actually an interesting sort of proto-Arthurian legend. This idea that this uh, post-Roman, pre-Saxon entity will be there looking after the kingdom.
Oh, there's a
Into
lot of those. There's a lot of
yeah,
those narratives for sure. I mean, Hereward the Wake as well has,
Hmm.
his whole
yeah,
like proto Robin Hood idea. Same thing with um what's it called, the Saxon Smith. There's tons of those that people are
yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
yes, they really lived. Going, did
Mm,
they though? I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. People don't think Beowulf was a real person. Why would you think these other people were? But anyway. All right, last question.
Unsubscribed.
Yeah. Last question, because we all love this one. Why
Uh-huh.
won't archaeologists admit that the Roman dodecahedrons were used for knitting?
Because knitting wasn't really a thing in the Roman Empire at
Yeah,
that point
yeah,
in history.
yeah. 3
But they
points to
can be
Frederick.
used. And they
Yeah.
could be used today.
They could,
Kind
well,
of nifty.
yeah, they could be, but except that some of the holes through which apparently you're forming a finger are smaller than any human finger can be, and that includes babies. Like, but like one of the most I don't buy into this because actually there was something clearly different about the sides of the dodecahedron and the holes being different shapes, which must be significant. But I did hear a compelling argument that it could be used for doing washing. So you put a soap or some sort of cleaning aspect inside the dodecahedron, and as
Mhm.
it soaks, it melts, and the bubbles and the bubbles on the corners or the is the
Scrape
not
and wash
artif
everything.
yeah, there's a word for the points at which the different edges end. But anyway, but the point is that rather than being used to loop thread or yarn for knitting, actually they would bump into clothes and agitate essentially the cloth and make it I find that more compelling. I like and also, I mean, obviously I've joked with you in the past about it being used to sort something like pasta
Yeah,
into
see, yeah, that's right. Mark
into
said it should be like the different holes for different pasta sizes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like a really small one is like, oh, I've had, I had too much wine last night, a little bit of pasta. But it's just for folks listening at home, what I find interesting about that is that one of the main ways in which I've come across people saying, "Oh, it's common sense," is that they'll present this hypothetical story of a grandma somewhere in Europe, who just sort of looks at it and apparently sort of gives it a little, side eye and turns it over and asks, "Whereabouts do you find this?" And the archaeologist is going, we only find them in the Northern Roman Empire. What could it be?" And then she says, "Oh, well, obviously it's for cold regions and it's for knitting gloves." And I like it. I like the story presentation as a um non-specialist and accessible version of interpretation. I love that idea that anyone can pick something up. And archaeology at its best is a tangible connection to the past that is, in fact, in that sense, experiential and can relate. You can relate to it in that way. But the fact that people will not listen to, as you say, Frederick, the fact that knitting wasn't a thing is so frustrating. That I've got to the point now of I now put things inside them. I don't know if you've seen, but
Yeah, that's
I
right.
did
I saw
I did
it.
I commissioned essentially a 3D print where there's a 12-sided shape inside the dodecahedron, which is very pleasing. And for me, that's now my headcanon. It's just it's a fiddle thing, which is fine. But I mean,
Yeah,
I
it could
don't know.
be a Roman fidget spinner. We don't know.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, as opposed to what it's not. I mean, what do either of you guys have any theories as to what it might be then, as opposed to what it isn't?
I don't know,
Hypotheses,
kind
sorry.
of like a sort of game piece,
Oh yeah,
lost game. I mean, not that we have too many of them, but yeah. Or
Mm-hmm.
I would
I'm
I
not
would rather
sure.
take that than 6-Man Morris. I would take 6-Man Morris and dump it into the sea. I hate that game. It's so annoying. I mean, we have other dice from them, so I mean, why not? Why can't it be a game piece of some
Yeah,
kind?
well, there's a D20, isn't there? There's a
Yeah,
Roman
that's right. Yeah.
D20.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Romans first DMs. Well, technically Egypt would be first DM. Okay.
Just turn, just turn up in Britannia and just be like, right,
Just to put the
roll
card
for
down and go.
initiative.
Yeah. And that's how Rome took over Egypt.
Yeah.
They lost their D&D campaign.
Yeah, exactly. The Elven Bard was just rubbish. Like, why did you choose the Elven Bard, Egypt? Should have gone with a tank. Yeah, anyways.
Well, you made it to the end without killing me, which is great. Mark, how'd we do? What are the scores?
Oh, yeah. So, okay, 8.5. Okay.
Who's the winner? Who's the winner?
8, 9, uh, 8, okay, 10.5. Okay. And then, I mean, I'm not sure why I'm counting because it's obvious, really. So it's 5, 10, 14 and a half. Oh, 24 and a half. 27 and a half is the winner, and that's Frederick. So well done, Frederick.
Yay!
Sorry.
Oh.
So yeah, I came second, 10.5, and Michelle, you came in third with the 8.5. But as the wrong, but as the DM, as we know, that's the default position. You got to work hard, haven't you, to win? In that. But yeah, well done, Frederick.